In this video, we're going to take a look at factorising expression. So the first question here really is, what do we mean by factorising? So factorising is when we put an algebraic expression into brackets. Let's say we've got 3x plus 12 here. We've got 3x plus 12. Now if I want to factorise this here, we'd get a single bracket with a term here in front. Okay? So how do we actually factorise this here? Well, the very first thing that I do here, I start by finding the highest common factor of 3x and 12. So in that case then, the highest common factor of 3x and 12, that would be 3. So the 3 here goes in front of the bracket. And what we do now is we almost work backwards. So what I think about here is, what do I times 3 by to get 3x? To get the 3x here like we mentioned, well that must simply be x. And again, just repeating that here, what do I times 3 by to get positive 12? Let's get the plus 12 here. Well, that must be plus 4 there. Okay. And there we have it. So if we were to factorise 3x plus 12, we'd get 3 lots of x plus 4. Okay. Now, sometimes we might also be asked to factorise when, for example, we have the variable on both terms. So for example, let's say we've got 5a plus 20a squared. Okay. So I want to factorise this here. Again, we need the highest common factor of 5a and 20a squared. Now in this case, because we also have the variable a here in both terms, I've got a here and a squared here, we can also pull out the a as the highest common factor. But in that case, my highest common factor here would be 5a. And then inside the bracket, again, just working backwards here, what do I times 5a by here? Get 5a. That must simply be 1. And again, just repeating that here, what do I times 5a by? Get 20a squared. Well, that must be 4a. Okay, and there we have it. So like you can see, we give me the 20a squared there underneath. Okay, you can always double check your solution by expanding back out. If you were to expand this back out here, 3 times x will give you 3x. 3 times 4 will give you positive 12. We know that is correct there. Do the same here. 5a times 1 gives us 5a. 5a times 4a, that gives us 20a squared. Okay, so there we have it. So like I said, the key point here is just to note this, that factorising is the opposite of expanding brackets. So this time now, when we're factorising, we're looking to put this into brackets. Okay, we put it into brackets, that being the key point there. Okay, that gives everything we need there for our introduction to factorising expressions. What we're going to do now is just take a look at some practice questions. Starting off with question 1 now, where we're asked to factorise the following expressions. So if we start off with part A here, we've got 2y plus 10. Now just remember, if we're factorising, that means we now want to put these into brackets. So the first thing that we need to do here is find the highest common factor for 2y and 10, which in this case will be 2. We put a 2 here in front of the bracket. And now what I need to do is think about, what do I times 2 here by to get 2y? Well, that must simply be y. Because 2 times y would give us 2y. And then repeat that here. So 2 times by something gives me positive 10. That must be plus 5. And there we have it. So that's our solution to A. Like you can see, nice and straightforward. Moving on to B now, we've got 3x minus 12. So again, just factorising this expression. That just means we now need to put this into brackets. So again, just pulling out the highest common factor here, that would be 3. Put the 3 here in front of the bracket. So now what do we times 3 by to get 3x? Well, that must simply be x. And again, what do I times 3 by here to get minus 12? Well, that must be minus 4. And that gives us our solution there to B. Moving on to C now, we've got 20p plus 40. So again, just pulling out the highest common factor here, which in this case will be 20. So now, what do we times 20 by to get 20p? Well, that must be p. And again, just repeating this here, what do I times 20 by to get 40? Well, that must be 2. And there we have it. So as easy as that, that's our solution to C. Moving on to D now, we've got 21h plus 15. So again, the first thing that we need to do here is find the highest common factor for 21h and 15, which in this case will be 3. We get 3 on the outside of the bracket here. So inside the bracket now, what do I times 3 by to get 21h? Well, that must be 7h. And what do I times 3 by to get 15? Well, that must be plus 5 there. And there we have it, so that's our solution to D. And then finally, for E here, we've got 20r squared plus 8. So again, just putting out the highest common factor of 20r squared and 8, which in this case will be 4. We get a 4 in front of the bracket. What do I times 4 by to get 20r squared? Well, that must simply be 5r squared. And then what do I times 4 by to get 8? Well, that must be plus 2 there. Okay, and there we have it. So that's our solution to E, and that gives the solution to question 1 overall. So to finish with now, we just take a look at the very last question where we're asked to fully factorise the following expressions. So for part A, we've got 3ab plus 27b. Remember, if we're factorising, that just means we're putting these into brackets now. So again, the first thing that we do here is just find the highest common factor. So the highest common factor here of 3ab plus 27b, that would simply be 3b. We put 3b here in front of the bracket. So now what do we times 3b by to get 3ab? Well, that must simply be a. And what do we times 3b by to get 27b? Well, that must be plus 9 there. Okay, so we get plus 9 there. And there we have it. So that's the solution to A. Hopefully nice and straightforward. So for part B now, we've got 6x minus 3x squared. So again, just putting out the highest common factor here to begin with. That would be 3x. So now we put this in front of the bracket here. What do we times 3x by to get 6x? So that would be 2. And what do we times 3x by to get minus 3x squared? Well, that would be minus x there. That's our solution to B. Moving on to C now. Looks a little bit complicated. We've got m squared n plus mn squared. So again, the first thing that we need to do here is just find the highest common factor. So the highest common factor here for C would be mn. So now, what do we times mn by to get m squared n? Well, in that case, that would be m. And what do we times mn by to get mn squared? Well, that would be plus n there. So that's the solution to C. And then finally for D here, we've got 18x squared y plus 30y cubed. So again, just putting out the highest common factor here. Well, in this case, this would be 6y. My highest common factor here. So working backwards now, what do I times 6y by to get 18x squared y? Well, in this case, this would be 3. Obviously, 6 times 3 would give me the 18. We also need the x squared here, so I'm going to get 3x squared. And then what do I times 6y by to get 30y cubed? Well, that must be 5y squared. Okay, and there we have it. So that's our solution to D. And that's the solution to question 2 overall. That brings the end of this video on factorising expressions. So in the next video, we're going to take a look at exam revision for expanding and factorising.